Welcome back to the Mastery Method podcast. It has been a right hot minute since I've been on, and that's okay because every time there's a pause, there's a deep growth, there's a lot of work that goes into things. And I come back to you guys today in a really authentic way to me. I'm going deep to my roots, which is where we will be for the next few episodes, although I cannot promise you when they will be, but sooner rather than later, that is for sure. Today's topic is going to be hopefully a really interesting one for you all. And it's about medical astrology. Now, most people think astrology tells you about your personality, and you know what? It does. It can help guide major life decisions and pathways, but it's important to note that that isn't all it's useful for. A component of astrology, known as medical astrology, can guide your health and it can inform areas of your body where weakness can exist. It tells you where your body likely holds tension, where it stores emotion, and what your body needs from you. And this is the component that goes deep to my roots. Whilst I'm stepping more into medical astrology as a new component of my work, the physical aspect that is dear to my heart. As an integrative bodywork practitioner, I work with the lymphatic system, with your visceral system, the vascular system, the neural system in a physical capacity. And more, what keeps coming up is the spiritual aspect for people, the emotional aspect for people, the karmic aspect for people, because our body, it doesn't lie. It holds stories. And those stories can manifest as chronic back pain, as shoulder injuries, as autoimmune conditions. Okay, they don't have to, but there can sometimes be a link. So today, I'm walking you through your chart like a map of your physical and energetic body. Now, I'm no astrologer, so I won't be talking about moon placements and planetary alignments in terms of influencing your life decisions. But what I do want to share is how you can use your astrological chart to help your personal health and well-being. Everything that I share below isn't to diagnose you in any way. It most certainly is not going to replace any medical care that you might need. It will, however, help provide you with some self-awareness and empowerment for your own natural healing. If you've listened to any of my other podcast episodes, you'll know that I've talked a lot about various aspects of your health, your nervous system, the effect of trauma on both your physical and energetic body, and how that can impact your ability to manifest in turn. I've spoken about how manifestation is just one happy outcome of healing deep parts of your subconscious and balancing your body and your health. So bringing balance back to your health and well-being is another massive, massive positive outcome, more important than anything you're going to manifest, in my humble opinion. It's important to note that everything is integrated. And to reach for true health is not a state we must aim for, but rather it is to find and bring equilibrium within our body, as well as within our body and our energy field. So let's dive a little deeper into how you can bring your mental, spiritual, and physical health back into alignment with medical astrology. This is actually very interesting to me and something that you can go about yourself with ease, so do stay tuned. Consider this episode Medical Astrology 101. And it being the map that no health professional can actually give you. First up, let's take a look at your natal chart. This is the astrological placements at the time of your birth. To know your chart and your placements, you can pop your date, time, and location of birth into an astrological calculator, which you can find online, and this will give you a full view of your astrology, not just your commonly known star sign. If you don't know the time of your birth, opt for sunrise or approximately 6 a.m. You can also play around with testing different times of the day to see if any of the placements change slightly and if the descriptions provided describe you better. For example, if your mum knows that you were born at some point in the afternoon, then work with some afternoon time placements to get a fit that works best for you. All right. My mum, she don't remember what time I was born, but it was early in the morning. Okay. Once you have all your placements, you'll want to have a look at all the signs that are in your chart, not just your sun sign. Then you'll have a good overarching view as to whether you have certain elements that are stronger than others. For example, the main elements that we work with within astrology are fire, earth, air, and water. Fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Within my chart, my sun sign is Scorpio. It's also my rising sign. And if that's not enough, I've got it in 3 other placements in my chart. That's a lot of Scorpio, and it's a lot of water energy. That provides an explanation for the depth of my perception and intuition. When you have 3 or more placements in one sign, astrologers call that a stellium. It means that the sign's energy is concentrated and amplified. I also have a Sagittarius stellium too. This provides a strong balance to my water energy by fueling my chart with fire energy. That gives me an explanation as to why I'm such a go-getter. I'm not the kind of person to lull around if you consider a metaphorical explanation of when water can become stagnant. On top of this, I have a Virgo moon and I've got 2 other earth placements. This balances out both my fire and my water energy. It keeps me grounded and helps me be quite balanced instead of overbearing from such strong fire and water forces. Then I have just a hint of air placement, not enough to be flighty or an airhead, so to speak, but not so little that I suffocate. All right. The air in my chart allows me the space to articulate what my water perceives and my fire drives me towards. I love all of the metaphorical descriptions surrounding these elements because they actually are an accurate way of interpreting what they provide. So both how they help and how they hinder. They also weave beautifully with both Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. Together, you really bring forth a holistic system where no illness is considered in isolation. Whilst Western medicine is so advanced in so many ways, we all know it to be highly specialized. And unfortunately, that specialization often means that things can be considered in isolation. What would truly make Western medicine great, in my very humble opinion, is a strengthening of the integrative medicine to bridge the gap between these specialties so that things can be looked at holistically as well. Now, I think that's important because we need the integrative side or the GP to step forward and bridge these specialties together in a way that makes sense for the individual and so that the body is looked at holistically. But I digress. I'm going off topic. What we're sticking to today is when you consider both Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, both consider the elements of doshas or fire, earth, water, air, and additionally wood, metal, and space. These elements are used to bring harmony back to the body. All right. When treating clients within my clinical practice, working with visceral manipulation and lymphatic drainage, bringing harmony back to the body is the essential key. Your body operates in cycles and in rhythms, as does astrology, Chinese medicine, and Ayurveda. We have obvious cycles such as our sleep and wake states. We have hormonal cycles, which both men and women can experience. However, they're definitely more obvious in women, especially when it comes to our monthly cycle. Now, within this, it's important to note that each organ has its own rhythm or what's known as motility. Nothing is fixed in space within your body. We have inhalation and exhalation of the lungs, peristalsis of the intestines, and each other organ has a natural rhythm. All right, your liver doesn't just sit in its space and not move. Okay, it also has a natural rhythm. And a restriction in any one of these rhythms, be that due to scar tissue, inflammation, infection, illness, injury, it can cause a shift or change to that natural rhythm. When you multiply that over hundreds of movements per day, then thousands per week and per year, the axis of the body will start to change around that pull or restriction. In childhood, for example, it's commonplace to have bronchial issues. Daycares are cesspools of bugs, and with colds and flus and other respiratory illnesses. Over time, if you are prone to these lung issues, there can be restriction that can occur within the pleura, for example. And when left over time, these can actually manifest as shoulder or neck issues in adulthood if that restriction remains in place. Now, there are obviously many more factors in here, but I am keeping this at a one level conversation. With this example, releasing a restriction within an organ can bring its natural rhythm back, which will stimulate blood and lymphatic flow. It will also free up neural pathways and pain. However, what I have seen over my 20 years in practice is exactly what I mentioned just a moment ago. And that is that the best results lie with an integrative approach. Just as important it is to rehab injuries with treatment and exercise, sometimes nutrition is the missing piece. Sometimes cleansing and detoxing are the needed element. Other times it's an energetic-based clearing, past life regression, a soul contract healing. And today, it's medical astrology. So let's have a look at each element from an astrological perspective. Fire energy has the potential to trailblaze, to forge new paths into the earth, to be warm, to be social. It is also about the cycle of death and rebirth. However, when your fire energy is out of balance or when there is too much fire, it can actually be incredibly destructive. It's often associated with the emotion of anger, but can also be prone to destructive behavior, not seeing something through, for example, if you're always burning down what it is that you create. When there is too little fire energy, especially if you are a fire sign, then you are at risk of stagnating, feeling unmotivated, your circulation can be stagnant, and then your lymphatic system will be as well. The areas of the body that the fire element rules are the adrenals, the liver, the blood. Aries is about the head, the face, the brain. Leo is the heart, the spine, and your upper back. And Sagittarius is the liver, your hips, and thighs. When we have the heart, the brain, and the liver together, you're really ruling the circulatory system. So being mindful of your blood is really important here. Earth energy has the potential to nourish and to grow abundance. It's grounded, stable, and builds lasting foundations. Consider long-term growth and development a strong aspect of earth energy. It is practical and focuses on material security. However, when out of balance, it can be dry. Consider the desert. The earth can be a life giver, but also a taker. It can lack vitality, and earth energy can be very harsh. Taurus rules the throat, the neck, the thyroid. Virgo is all about the digestive systems, so the intestines as well. Capricorn is about your knees, bones, and joints. When you tie the endocrine system through the thyroid, the digestive system, and the bones together, you really encourage metabolic and structural stability. Can you see how the earth is all about the structure and the nurturing aspect, right? When you have too little earth energy or you aren't leaning on it to actively bring it in, you can consider that you may not feel stable, that you may need to retreat or hibernate to rest deeply. Fatigue and digestive issues would be central to consider, be this bloating, nutritional deficiencies, and also stagnation within your health. And this can show up in your life too. Air energy is quite cognitive in that it rules the thinking mind. Consider the element of wind. It can carry you up high, can help you soar, give you a bird's eye perspective on things. Air is also associated with networking, building connections, and of course, the nervous system. People who are air signs can often come across as not being grounded, too flighty, quite detached, or even just too in their heads. However, the air energy is important when you consider that it's vital to help birds, bees, bugs travel and spread seeds. It provides the oxygen that we literally need to breathe and to grow. The air helps us move and literally travel. However, too much of it, and it can be destructive, as we see with strong winds, with hurricanes, with tornadoes, and the kind of damage that too much wind, concentrated wind, can cause. The areas of the body that air energy focuses on are Gemini governs the lungs, the chest, the nervous system. Libra governs your kidneys and your lower back. Aquarius is responsible for ankles and the circulatory system. And when you bring together the lungs, the kidneys, the circulatory system, you are working with the body's filtration system. As we turn to water energy, we can see that water can be very deep. Look at the oceans as an example. Sometimes we don't even know how deep they can go. It's often associated with perception and intuition as well as mysticism. Too much water and you can be too emotional and irrational, potentially having poor boundaries. Too little water and you could be disconnected from your intuition, have difficulty accessing your feelings, and without the right structure around it, you can be perceived as wishy-washy or similar to a fish out of water. Every element has a positive and negative balance with it. Water is highly pliable. It can shape to whatever container it resides in. However, it can also erode those barriers over time. The areas of the body that water energy focuses on are Cancer, which governs the chest, breast, and stomach. And I mean Cancer as in the sign of Cancer, not Cancer, the disease. Scorpio, which governs the reproductive and lower digestive organs. And Pisces, which holds the feet and the lymphatic system. When you bring together breast tissue, reproductive organs, and the lymphatic system, you are working with a powerful undercurrent within the body. And a focus on cleansing and keeping the lymphatics moving is very important. Consider water as flowing through pathways just like the lymphatic system flows through the body, or perhaps through rivers and channels that nourish the earth. Together with earth, water soaks and helps grow life. The fire creates warmth and blazes trails, whilst the air moves the earth, the water, and the fire in the direction that they need to go. Together, they're all necessary and work harmoniously. However, we can also see that together they can be destructive. So getting the balance right for your health is definitely important. What I hope you see with the elements is that one isn't particularly good or bad as such. They each have their strengths and their weaknesses. Knowing how much of each element you have in your astrological chart can be very helpful to you in knowing how to bring harmony back into the body, how to utilize each element to create momentum within your life. Remember, everything in your health, in your life, your ability to create and manifest is balanced between your physical and your ethereal layers. If you're like me and you have just a hint of air in your chart, then you can use that strategically when you become overwhelmed. I love nothing more than going for a big, long walk to balance my energy and my nervous system when I'm stressed, because it means I focus on my breathing whilst I walk. This brings in that air element that I need within my chart to help me come back into harmony. When I need to really hone in on a client's needs, when I'm working with somebody one-on-one, in person or virtually, I draw on the depth of my water element reserves to pull that intuition necessary for them. I look at their body systems, their auric systems, the Akashic records, past lives, and anything subconscious. It's important that when I work, I stay hydrated. Caffeine and salt, they're not my friends because they're too dehydrating for me. And interestingly, I'm actually really sensitive to both. Each element can be drawn upon at different times depending on what it is that you need in your life within that moment. If you are seeking an improvement to your health, then considering the elements in your chart could be a useful complement to any treatment or modality that you are already receiving. If you are struggling with the issues of the lymphatic system, for example, consider ways that you can get the water in your body moving again. Is there too much fire or heat in your chart and therefore in your body? Do you need to eat cooler, more moist foods such as fruits, cucumbers, melons to tone down the heat and provide some additional hydration? Or is it that your earth is out of balance because there's too much salt in your diet and that's affecting your water's flow? Are you too much in your water element that you literally become stagnant, that you aren't flowing within your life and in your body? Perhaps you literally just need to get moving, to get up, walk, exercise, rebound, to physically stimulate the lymph until you start flowing in certain aspects of your life again. Let's also consider the lymphatic system holistically. It is a significant part of your immune system, your filtration, your detox pathways. Where in your life are you literally holding on to things? Are there toxic people in your life, or is your environment toxic? For example, do you have too much mold exposure or too many chemicals in your life? And could you be better supported with some cleansing to stimulate your lymphatic system flowing again? What if you are struggling with structural injuries, say to your shoulders, your knees, neck, or your back? When we are looking at structural issues from this perspective, it's wise to consider where our foundations or earth energy might be out of balance. I know for me, my shoulders became incredibly injured out of the blue when I was going through a massive career shift. That was a big foundational change that I also experienced physically. Within the metaphysical space, our shoulders represent our ability to carry the burdens of life. They represent responsibility and accountability. Strong shoulders indicate an ability to handle stress and responsibility. Weakness or injury here can reflect you feeling unsupported. As a whole, our skeletal system and joints represent our structure, our support system, and ability to powerfully move through life. It's interesting to note that a solid structure not only supports us, but allows us to rest and retreat. Imagine building yourself a house for it to blow away with the first and lightest gust of wind. When this aspect of your life is out of balance, consider where it is that you are forcing things to happen in your life. Are you building something that is on shaky foundations? A new business is a great example where you have the gusto and impetus to go out and get new clients, but you might be missing critical skills, startup capital, a website, for example. Another great point might be going for a high-powered job, a promotion where you don't quite meet the necessary criteria either through experience or qualification. And physically, this could manifest as you going to the gym to build strong muscles. It may be a desire for better physical aesthetics, only to be fueled by junk food. Doesn't work. And you can see how Earth also rules metabolic and digestive elements within the body. It could be that your workload picks up and you're lacking the necessary support to ensure your good habits remain in place, So you end up grabbing a takeaway for lunch here and a takeaway for dinner there. Your caffeine intake goes up because you're constantly on the run. Then your alcohol intake goes up in the evenings. Your water consumption, of course, goes down. Holistically, we can see then how our earth energy would be out of balance. And nutritionally, in this example, we consider this to be very dehydrating and not nutritious at all, really. Our fire energy governs the vascular circulatory system. That's your blood. If you are struggling with overall immunity, iron issues, nutrient absorption issues, thick blood, varicose veins, calcification within your arteries, also blood pressure issues, then it might be necessary to consider how you can strengthen your fire energy. The liver is such an important part of this and many systems within the body. It's also connected with anger, resentment, and frustration. It can also be linked to heartburn type issues, which could be considered as having too much fire in the body. Where fire is stagnant in your body and manifesting in ways just mentioned, where in your life is this mirroring? Where are you facing roadblocks within your career? Can you lean into what might be going on behind that block? Are you forcing something that isn't ready? Or is it that you need to strengthen your beautiful fire resolve? Do you need to sit with the fire energy for a little longer before you charge with it? Would warmer, spicier food suit you better if your fire energy is weak? Now, as we're going to turn our attention to the last element, note how everything is mirroring this inside out energy. As within, so without, as above, so below. It's the blend of physical and spiritual energy. It's the truest integrative approach to your health and your ability to create the life that you desire. So let's look at air energy. Where is it that you feel you have been blown off course? Or perhaps you've come in too strong and literally blown everything apart. Do you feel that you are perhaps just flowing through life without any real direction, motivation, or inspiration? Perhaps you're often described as being off with the fairies, and that is why you can't really create any solid momentum for yourself. If you are too much in your energy, you will lack the structure needed to create and build a path forward for yourself. After all, air flows powerfully through tunnels, doesn't it? Because that structure is there to move it. So if you are wanting to elevate your career, it would be necessary to bring in other elements such as earth and fire to help you build that path for yourself. And that could look like finding ways to ground yourself by being outside with the earth, with the trees, or simply to just intentionally sit with the energy of each element until you feel it strengthening within you. If your body's filtration system isn't working as it should be that your lungs, your breath, your kidneys, then consider leaning into that air energy with hyperbaric chambers. That is such a powerful healing tool. What about meditation and deep breathing to help clear and bring in stronger oxygen pathways? There are so many ways that we can take this type of treatment, and I personally like to weave it quite intuitively, guided by your team in spirit within my medical intuitive sessions. Some of the scenarios I've shared are direct examples of what has come up for clients, and may not be your own way to bring in that healing component for each energy. But what I find so helpful is tuning into the energy of each element to bring you the wisdom that you need and that you can benefit from. Be that with your health or perhaps with what you have going on in your life. If this has been interesting to you, then please let me know. You can also book a private intuitive session where we can look at and work on healing the blocks in your life in a completely integrative manner. These medical intuitive sessions will be linked in the show notes for you, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. The next podcast is percolating in the back of my brain, so I will aim to get that out very soon.